Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. On this episode, I want to go over how to clean your kayak and just doing simple maintenance on your kayak in general right after this. Sorry for any background noise. I guess I have to let my neighbors do things too. I have the Hobie PA14. Some people just have just a simple kayak, but we have a lot of accessories on this kayak. So what I normally do is I take off anything that I want to get out of the way so I can clean my kayak. I also take off the electronics so there is no chance of getting a lot of water in the cables themselves. I empty the hatches. I also make sure the hatches are, sealed back up so we don't get a lot of water inside the kayak unless I want to clean it. And I just take everything else off it. To do the cleaning of the kayak, because I haven't cleaned this one in quite some time and it's actually abnormal for me, I use just simple Dawn dish detergent. I have a 5-gallon bucket with a brush. I have a sponge with a scrubby side and a softer side, almost like a microfiber side. I have a microfiber towel. And I also, for those stubborn stains, I have a spray bottle filled with Spray 9 heavy duty degreaser, and I'm going to use that on the deck itself because it's been quite some time since I've cleaned this. So I actually want to pre-treat it with this and let it soak for a little bit. You can see my deck ain't horrendous, but it's dirty for me. I know some people never clean it at all. So what I do is I'll take the spray bottle, pre-treat the deck area with the Spray 9. I'm not shy about how much I use. I make sure it gets down to my gear, where my fins click in. And I'll let this soak for about a good 15 minutes before I even hit this area. But, I pretty much get the top deck. This will get most of your, takes most of the abuse. And, everything sits on top of this and things get stuck on it. And so really the top of the kayak, I'll pre-treat a lot with the Spray 9. It's a degreaser, so I'll get it in there where my boondocks sit. I'll do pretty much pre-treat the whole top of my kayak where it takes a lot of abuse. The sides, for the most part, this should just come off with soap and water, your scum line from the water. But if not, you can put a little bit of this on there, which I think we will this time. I try to keep it away from the stickers because this Spray 9 sometimes will take it. It almost starts to take the vinyl off. But being my kayak's kind of dirty for a change, I'm actually going to pre-soak everything with the Spray 9. So I got the Dawn detergent in my bucket. I'm going to fill that up. That Spray 9 I actually get from Amazon too as well, and I have it on subscribe and save, so it saves me almost like 75 cents off the 1 gallon of it. The Dawn dish detergent, it's probably my wife. She probably picked it up from somewhere, but I just steal it from her all the time. She's like, oh, we're out of dish detergent. I keep stealing it, we just don't tell her that. So after your deck sits for quite some time, first of all, I hit it with the brush at first because it's more of a stiffer bristle, and I'll get all the really, caked on, stuck on stuff with the brush, and then I'm gonna go back through with the microfiber and the sponge. But just clean your deck. I'm not going to show you every step of the way here, but get your deck really clean. Make sure you hit everything. I would suggest that doing this at least, depends how much you fish. If you fish a lot, I would do this at least once a month. Me, typically, I normally do almost every trip back when I'm done, but lately I just haven't been doing that. It's been busy. But you can see the Spray 9 takes the scum off the kayak really, really easy without me actually having to scrub that hard. So we're gonna get this cleaned up, and I'm gonna go over a few other steps of maintenance and some other things I do while I clean my kayak. These rod tubes on the Hobie gets filled with a lot of junk and gunk that you don't see. So what I do is I fill these rod tubes up with the hose. I put a little Spray 9 in there, I fill them up, let them sit for a little bit, and just hose it, get the whole tube filled with water. Then I pick up the kayak and let it drain out. But I really get inside the rod tubes as well. With this little bit of the Spray 9, we actually put inside the 5-gallon bucket too as well. This way, this whole soap that we're putting on the kayak almost is a complete degreaser as we're cleaning, because you'd be amazed of how much stuff, actually, like the oil and stuff from your soft plastics and everything else gets inside of all this. The center hatch here where I keep my tackle, I make sure everything's emptied out of this kayak, because I actually put a little bit of water in the kayak, just a little bit, and then I go in with a microfiber and just kind of soak it back up. But at least it kind of gets some of there's a little bit of dirt inside the kayak I have. So, I really get this really thoroughly cleaned. So once I get everything pretty much rinsed off, I'll make sure this is when I tilt my kayak. Make sure the rod tubes drain out. Make sure most of the water gets off it. And then the next step is you're going to want to dry it up real good, because, you know, when you do, if you only do this cleaning, you know, every 6 months, a year, you're going to want to protect your kayak too. To protect my kayak, I use the 303 aerospace UV protectant. You know, I keep my kayak inside the garage. Even if you garage keep it like I do, you know, the amount of time that you're on the water with it, it's still exposed to a lot of sun. So you want to put some kind of protectant on it. And I think the 303 is the best protectant, especially if you have a tonneau cover. It's good for both. I put it on my tonneau cover and my kayak. But we're going to dry this kayak dry it up really good. And I'll show you a little tip I do for helping making it dry faster. Then we're going to apply this protectant on it, spray it on, wipe it off with a microfiber towel. I'm not going to really go into, you know, us actually doing it, because that's kind of boring to watch, but you can just read the directions, you know, shake it up really good, spray it on, let it sit for a minute, come back with a microfiber, and, you know, just wipe it off. It's going to help you, it's going to give you protectant for your plastics. So to dry my kayak off a little faster than even my truck, I use a leaf blower. Just blow it around the, you know, just blow it around the kayak. It gets all the water out of all the grooves. It gets the water out of all the tracks and everything else. And then you know, this is my first initial what I do. Then I come back with a microfiber. I wipe it down really good. Let it dry in the sun for about an hour before I actually put the 303 protectant on it. You know, after you dry your kayak off and you want it to sit for like an hour or so, this is the time, if you have a dry, you know, a pedal or a fin-driven kayak or any kind of, you know, motorized propulsion, whether it's your motor, your pedals, your drive, now's the time to just come in through, you know, make sure everything's tight on this. And what I normally do is I'll clean this up with a good degreaser with the, you know, with the spray 9. I'll clean this up, let this sit for a little bit, and then I douse, after I check all my nuts that they're tight, I'll douse this whole area basically in WD-40 to help just give it some lubrication, some protectant. You know, also now is a good time to you know, go back and double check all your accessories on your kayak. Make sure everything is tight, you know, make sure everything's, you know, anything that needs lube, you know, put lube on it now. But if you only do this a couple times a year, now is a good time when you do these good cleanings and your protectant. I suggest putting that 303 on every 6 months. And now is a good time to do your, you know, your dielectric grease on your fittings if you take them in and out a lot. You know, if you remove your electronics and you're always taking it in and off, I would do the dielectric grease every month. Just to put this takes a little bit. Just put a little dielectric grease on there. It's just going to give you the less things you got to worry about when you're on the water that's going to fail, because one little pin that's not making connection, or you get water in something, you could lose your graph and it could ruin your day, especially if you're fishing in a tournament. So now's the time when you want to, you know, do all your maintenance on everything. You want to do your lubrication. You want to check your fittings. And another thing too, the anchor wizard. Every 6 months, I'll actually cut the carabiner off it and retie that on, because, you know, if you notice that on the paracord, you'll start seeing where it gets flattened out, and it's just, you know, it gets in the water. It's a breaking point. So I'll actually take some of that paracord off, cut about 6 feet off it, and I'll actually retie the carabiner during this big cleaning that I'm doing now. You know, this is what I was talking about. So your anchor wizard, what I'll do is I'll loosen this up. You know, you're not going to miss 6 feet off of this. You know, I'll take about 6 feet off of this right now, cut off some of that paracord, and what I'll do is I'll just cut this here and I'll retie onto my carabiner, just to make sure that this, you know, connection right here won't break and I'll lose anchor point as I'm out there. So I'm gonna let this dry for a little bit longer. I gotta do a little bit more wiping down, but you can see already how much better the deck looks, and really just getting rid of all the scum line on the side. It didn't take long. It's just really your drying time is the part you got to wait. So I try to speed that up with the blower itself and wiping this all down with the microfiber and letting it sit in the sun before I put the protectant on. So I don't bore you with all the steps that I'm doing. It's just, you know, I'm verbally telling you, clean your fins. You know, on some of your pedal drives, they actually tell you in the books, I think some may even say like every 30 hours or something like that, or maybe every 30 days. I forgot what it is, or 30 trips. Basically, I would say every 3 months, if you have a pedal drive, you know, where you have the gearing, you know, system inside. I think a lot of those from Native and all of them, they tell you to take that apart, I think every 3 months, and put a little bit of grease in those. They're making those a little bit easier for just, you know, people at home not to have anything special as far as tools to be able to do that. You know, the Hobie fins, it's pretty, everything's out in the open, so it's just a matter of cleaning up really good. And like I said, I just use a good, you know, dousing of WD-40 on my fins and make sure all my nuts are tight. Do your dielectric grease on your electrical fittings. Put your 303 protectant on your kayak. Make sure all your accessories are tight. I cut off about 6 feet off my Anchor Wizard paracord and retie my carabiner, and I just protect this and just give it a little bit of love that it needs, and your kayak will last you a lot longer. You know, I hope this video gave you guys some information of what I'd use and some tips to help you keep your kayak looking good and protected, and just simple steps to prevent, you know, preventative maintenance. It's going to help you from having any failure on the water. Yes, no matter how much preventative maintenance you can do, you can always have failure on the water. You know, if you have a simple paddle driven kayak, there ain't much to fail on it, you know, if you just keep it simple. But when you start getting into all these gadgets, something's going to fail. I've had failures on the water even with my preventative maintenance. So hope you guys liked this video. Hope you guys learned a little something from this, and as always, be safe on the water, and I'll catch you guys on the water. Thanks for watching.